Good evening, everyone. My name is Mariam Suheda, and today I'm going to present my research proposal for PQB7001. Let's look at the contents of my proposal. Research title, introduction and background of the study, problem statement, research objectives and questions, research design and methodology, data analysis techniques, and significance of the research along with the references. Let's look at the title of the research. The effects of principles distributed leadership on teachers' organizational commitment in public schools of Maldives is going to be my research title. Education has undergone significant changes in the 21st century, and along with this includes the new teaching and learning approaches. Since every nation is looking forward at education as a stepping stone to wealth, advancement, and success. Building relationships with stakeholders, boosting teacher performance and student accomplishment, and enhancing teacher motivation and commitment are all tasks that school leaders do with great importance in the schools. The effectiveness of human capital, we can say more specifically that the effectiveness of the instructors and organizational performance, such as the students' results, determines the school's ability to compete and succeed. There are a variety of elements that affect how effectively the schools function, including the principal's leadership style, teachers' ability, teachers' quality, and the organizational commitment, according to Mutia et al. 2021 and Adams and Mutia 2020. When we look at the background of the story, we can say that according to Adams and Zureda, the potential of a nation to advance is significantly impacted by the success or failure of its educational system, and schools are expected to do more than what they did in the past, and school leadership is becoming much more complex, according to Nasir et al. According to Zureda and Mohammad Faizer 2014, leadership style is the key factor in the institution's efficiency and performance, and according to Adams 2018, a single leader is no longer seen as capable of carrying out the day-to-day management and responsibilities of the school because to the complexity of the educational system and its associated issues. Hence, the desires of teachers to leave their jobs can be hence the teachers are having the desire to leave the jobs, and this desire to leave the jobs can be prevented by the organizational commitment, according to Mutia et al. Therefore, in the school context, teachers' organizational commitment is crucial for achieving the institution's aims and goals, and research shows that significant relationship between principals, distributed leadership practices, and on the increasing and maintaining teachers' organizational commitment. For this proposal, I have taken distributed leadership as the exogenous variable and teachers' organizational commitment as the endogenous variable. Let's look at the problem statement. According to Reed 2020, school principals are fundamentally important to school improvement, and distributed leadership impacts teachers' organizational commitment according to Halpia et al.'s assessment of distributed leadership based on the quantity of leadership roles and their formal education, the collaboration in the leadership team, and the engagement of teachers in decision making. According to Khairuddin and Salisu 2015, in their study, they have discovered that the connection between distributed leadership and self-efficacy was mediated by teachers' organizational commitment. And since the Ministry of Education Maldives' target it is to adopt distributed leadership across the country, it is vital to know how it can affect the teachers' commitment in the schools of Maldives. And till date, there are limited studies or researches published in the Maldives which might support empirical data on the principles distributed leadership practices and how it affects on the teacher commitment. As a result, it is vital to know how distributed leadership impacts teachers' organizational commitment in the Maldivian schools. Here comes the research objectives and questions. The objectives of my research is to examine the level of principles distributed leadership practices in the public schools of Maldives, to examine the level of teachers' organizational commitment in the public schools of Maldives, to investigate the leadership between principles, the relationship between principles, distributed leadership, and teachers' organizational commitment in the public schools of Maldives, and finally to examine which of the dimensions among the principles distributed leadership has the most significant impact on teachers' organizational commitment in the public schools of Maldives. And the questions are aligned to the objectives, and the questions state that the first question is, what are the level of principles distributed leadership in public schools of Maldives? What are the level of teachers' organizational commitment in public schools of Maldives? What is the relationship between principles distributed leadership and teachers' organizational commitment in the public schools of Maldives? And finally, which of the dimension among the principles distributed leadership has an impact on teachers' organizational commitment in the public schools of Maldives? This is my research design and methodology framework. In my proposal, I'm going to use a non-experimental research design using a cross-sectional survey, and this is going to be a quantitative research method. The exogenous variable for my research proposal is distributed leadership style, and the endogenous variable is teachers' organizational commitment. And question 1 and 2 will be analyzed using descriptive analysis, and question 2 and 3 and 4 will be analyzed using inferential analysis. And for this research design, I'm going to use an online questionnaire, a Google form, and it will be distributed and data collected and analyzed. Okay, I'm going to provide a bit of justification for my research design and methodology. And the research design I have chosen is a non-experimental research design according to DeVos 2001. The structural planning and outline established for the execution of the complete study includes a research design as a crucial component. So research design, choosing a proper research design is very important when we are doing a research. Research, according to Creswell, research design is a plan designed to conduct the research to obtain answers to the research questions, which involves data collection, data analysis, and report the findings. And when it comes to the research methodology, I'm going to use quantitative, and according to Creswell, quantitative research is all about the statistics, close-ended questions, identifying the link between variables, and evaluating unbiased data, unbiased ideas and claims. So, but how Wilson 2014 states that quantitative research is commonly related with numerical analysis. It is considered subjective, and the data gathering techniques are frequently surveys. And when we look at the research methods, as I have mentioned before, I'm going to use a cross-sectional survey using Google Forms, and this can be justified by the researcher Creswell 2014. When there exist variables and your study is focused on identifying correlations and effects at only one moment in time, you must utilize a cross-sectional design in the quantitative research approach. And according to Creswell and Creswell 2018, survey designs are good for expressing trends, attitudes, and views with relation to the population sample used in statistics in quantitative study. So my population is going to be leading teachers and teachers of Maldives public schools, and according to the Ministry of Education statistics, there are 10,538 leading teachers and teachers combined together in Maldives. And according to Creswell, to ensure that a study's target population can be applied, it is essential to choose the participants with similar features. So This is the reason why I choose leading teachers and teachers. And when it comes to sampling, I'm going to use a cluster sample. According to Creswell and Creswell, cluster sampling is utilized in multi-stage data collection with little probability of influencing the outcome. And the sample size for this quantitative investigation will be chosen according to the Krejci and Morgan table. And I would be selecting one school from each atoll and a total of 371 participants as my sample. The research instruments that I'll be using in this, I plan to use in this research is ELMOS, Distributed Leadership Preparedness Scale, or DLRS, and Maudis, TIAS, and PORTAS, 1979, the measurement scale for organizational commitment. And according to Creswell, when doing research, the instrument is essential for acquiring data and information. And when it comes to the tool, utilizing this type of instrument to collect data is to speed up and streamline the process according to Gay et al. And to increase the response rate using according to Cohen et al. And for this one, I'm going to use a self-administered online questionnaire using Google Form with 5-point Likert scale. The data analysis process is tabulated here for easier reference. And the question 1 and 2, I'm going to use descriptive analysis using mean, median, mode, and standard deviation. And question number 3, I'm going to use inferential statistics using Pearson correlation to identify the relationship. And question number 4, I'm going to use inferential statistics using multiple linear regression to identify how the dimensions of principles distributed leadership is having an impact on teachers' organizational commitment. Let's look at the justification of data analysis techniques that I am going to use. First of all, I'm going to use SPSS to analyze my data. SPSS is a revolutionary software mainly used by research scientists to help process critical data in simple steps according to Noyles 2018. And I'm going to use descriptive statistics for question number 1 and 2. And according to Chua 2013, based on the data collection, respondents' characteristics are identified using descriptive statistical analysis. For example, the demographic data, including the age, gender, race, years of experience, and level, can be identified using the descriptive statistics. And I'm going to use inferential statistics on question number 3 and 4. And according to Chua 2013, inferential statistical analysis is used to determine and explain the relationship between the variables as well as to make judgments about the actual population from which the sample data were taken. And standard deviation is going to be used to determine the level of practices used in both variables, exogenous variable distributed leadership and endogenous variable teachers' organizational commitment using the descriptive statistics along with the demographic data. And according to Creswell, correlation can be used to determine the relationship between the variables, exogenous variable and the endogenous variable. And regression is used to determine which aspect of principles distributed leadership has the greatest influence on the organizational commitment of teachers. Finally, the significance of the study. This research is going to be significant for a number of people because Among them, the first one I have highlighted is the principles. The study's findings will aid principals in better understanding their current leadership practices, identifying whether those practices relate to a distributed leadership style, and assessing their success in securing full teacher commitment in their respective schools. As for teachers and leading teachers, would be able to comprehend the administrators or the principals' present procedures, ascertain whether the specific school is capable of utilizing distributed leadership styles within their organization, and assess the level of teachers' commitment attained in the educational school setting. For the Ministry of Education, it will help the Ministry of Education in understanding the present practices of principals who use distributed leadership styles and comprehend the level of teacher commitment that is achieved throughout the Maldivian public schools. The teacher commitment and leadership styles could be improved by the Ministry of Education, making the required changes to the policies according to the findings of this research. For the National Institute of Education or Department of Ministry of Education, it will be useful. It will be significant because the Ministry of Education, along with the National Institute of Education, could create training programs in accordance with the demands that emerge from this research. As a result, as this study would be acting as a foundation for the scant data published on the topics of principles, distributed leadership practices, and its relationship to boosting teacher commitment in the classrooms. So here is my reference. Thank you.